Hi, I'm Kate Edwards, president of Together Hospitality, and I'm joined today by my friend Jed Pines.
Hi, my name is Jed Pines from Pines & Co.
So you guys are a financial assistance group, let's say. How do you describe your business?
So we work as an outsourced bookkeeping firm for restaurants. We
Okay, cool.
provide different services from bookkeeping to payroll to that controller function.
So then people call you like with an SOS. Something has happened. That's very often when they call you, they need your help. So what is the precursor to that?
A lot of the times they realize that their financial information is not correct. They might
Okay.
look at the P&L and there will be a blatant error and then they realize, wait, my financials have been wrong for, a long period of time, and that's usually a big red flag for them to call us in.
Right, right. So then you get into it. And one of the things that you look for, so, in this world of subscriptions and things, there's things like auto pay. So what have you seen in this sort of area?
So one of the low-hanging fruit that we see right away is owners that have set up subscriptions for a long time and they completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
And then we pointed out and asked them if they're still using that service or not. And
Right.
it turns out that they're not. That's something that we can really drill into right away. Just look
Right.
at all the recurring payments that are set up. And the same with their day-to-day vendors like food. A lot of owners have them set up on auto pay. So they're not even looking at the invoices and they're basically just paying money, but they don't know where it's going. That's usually a big flag for us to take a look at the invoices to make sure the prices are correct, make sure that they're not overpaying.
The invoices, the actual paper invoice, is a very helpful tool. So in that moment of receiving, what are you looking for?
For us, the receiving function is one of the most important parts of the restaurant because you want to make sure that you're paying for everything that you're receiving. We like to see invoices that have every single line ticked off to know that the person that was receiving the items actually checked to make sure. Let's say you're paying for 100 pounds of chicken, but you only receive 80. You're
Right.
right away 20 pounds short, and that'll be a direct hit on your food cost.
That's something too that I used to see. There's a big difference even in produce. Like there's differences between cucumbers or oranges. So you've got to make sure that you're actually getting the thing that you require versus
Sure.
paying for something that you don't even need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So workers' comp seems like sort of a necessary evil in terms of a high expense. But you have a success story there.
For sure. So every restaurant is required to have workers' comp. If an employee ever has an injury. We had a client once that we started with them and we realized how high their workers' comp rates were.
And how did you know it was so high?
We work with so many different restaurants, so we know what the rates that every one of our clients pays. So for us, we can make sure that one client's not getting ripped off on their insurance because we know what everyone else is paying. So for this one example that you gave up, within 2 weeks of us starting with them, we reached out to a different broker, found a much cheaper workers' comp insurance rate, and they saved between 30 and 40% on their workers' comp
That's a huge save.
within a couple weeks.
And that was something they were just paying, not knowing that they could have gotten a better rate.
They had no idea that they were overpaying. A lot of owners aren't even looking at that sort of thing. They've been overpaying for years. Looking back at
Ouch.
the amount of money that they lost, it's pretty significant.
Right. And then another area where things can be a little leaky or loose, let's say, would be around the idea of events, because we don't pay necessarily the night of, we pay before. So what are you looking for there?
A lot of restaurants have an event team that help keep track of deposits and make sure that events are being closed properly, but a lot of restaurants don't, especially with the holiday season coming up. One challenge is keeping track of all the deposits that came in to make sure that all the events are fully paid for. On the day of the event, let's say you had a $2,000 deposit that you took 2 months ago, and then the person ringing in the check may or may not remember or have that organized, and then
Right.
so they're not going to ring in the check properly because they weren't aware of that deposit that had come through. It's very important to keep track of the deposits and the events to make sure that all the events are being paid for properly.
That's right. Yeah, and paid fully.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's talk about inventory. This is one of those things that every manager, myself included, back in the day, used to dread. It's picayune, it's annoying, and it's regular. So why is inventory so important?
So inventory is very important to have accurate COGS because you have the purchases, but at the end of the month, the only way to have a true cost of goods is if you have the inventory, because let's say you purchased a lot, but there's a lot left in inventory. You don't
Right.
want that to hit the P&L. For us, doing inventory, one, is a deterrent to the staff to know that we're watching, we're counting the inventory. So
Right.
So please don't take anything. And two, there's many different factors that could cause COGS to be high, but having an accurate inventory eliminates that variable, and then we can drill into other potential reasons why COGS might be high. Is there overpouring? Are we not receiving properly?
And you mentioned that it's a signal to the team that, oh, they're paying attention. So that could potentially eliminate the idea of people stealing or taking from the business. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. It just shows the staff, hey, this is important to us. We're putting the time in to invest into this. The staff sees that as a sign that, hey, like, we better be careful. Let's not take anything.
Right.
It's an investment to do a proper inventory. You know, it could
Right.
take several hours between two people. It could be spread out over multiple days, depending on the size of the inventory. So,
Right. Something you mentioned even a little earlier, the idea of you work primarily with restaurants. Thus, you know the vendors that everybody works with. How is that an advantage?
So we work with the same vendors across a lot of our restaurants. You know, there's a lot of the big players, Dairyland, Baldor, and for us, a lot of times we're dealing with the same rep across all the vendors. One of the advantages to understand cash flow, which vendors can we push out, which vendors, if there's an invoice due, are they going to be calling you threatening to shut you down because you haven't paid yet?
Yeah.
Which vendor is going to wait 2 weeks after the due date because they're a little more lenient. So for us, having the relationships with the vendors is a huge advantage just because it really helps us manage the cash flow better for the restaurants. It allows us to be more proactive with the vendors, to know this one is going to shut us down. You know, the last thing we want to do is see one of our clients not get a delivery because they haven't paid an invoice.
So it's these deep relationships, even with the vendors, that really help you help your clients.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that.